Take one.
Hi, welcome to TalkGA, our podcast on anything and everything stuffed animals. I'm your host.
It's TM32 Shinja here.
We're here with
Special guest, Grand Archive developer Citsacras.
Welcome to our podcast.
How are you doing today?
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. This is TalkGA, our podcast on anything and everything Grand Archive. I'm your host, Mark, and we have a lot of guests today, so I'm just going to go around the room and have them introduce themselves. You're first, Fome.
Oh, okay. Am I technically a guest or like sure?
The host guest.
Cool.
Mark and friends.
so picky.
Yeah, I'm Fome. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about some Grand Archive with y'all. How
Do
about
you
you?
go the rest of TalkGA or do you
No,
go?
you.
Okay. Hey, I'm Roger, or Citsacras. I'm Director of Operations for Weasel Shore.
And then you go. Do you want to go?
Developer of Grand Archive.
Yeah, do that thing too.
Yeah. Makes cardboard.
Yeah, I came off the
Sometimes.
street.
And we just happened to let him in. Floor, couch?
Floor.
Want to just go up and down like this?
Yeah,
zigzagging.
chaos.
Zigzag, zigzag.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Eva from TalkGA.
Hi, I'm Cherry from TM32.
Oh, is it me now? I'm Ken from TM32.
And I'm Shinja from TM32 as well.
Big family photo today.
Yeah.
I was worried that we were not going to fit everyone on the couch, but
I mean, technically, not everyone fit on this couch.
but
we didn't fit
we
everyone on
fit
the couch.
everybody on the set. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go into a little bit. Like we do have guests, so we should give them more time to talk about themselves and intro. I think the person I interface with the least here is Ken, so I'm gonna give him the mic first.
Oh boy.
Ken, you're up first. You have a
Hot
very
spot.
impressive resume. I did not know anything about a lot of this stuff. I saw a little Team Liquid logo, so then I went splunking on your background, and I was like, okay, so this guy is basically written for IGN, okay, Riot Games, Team Liquid, but also was studying to be a doctor. So you disappointed your Asian parents.
Yeah.
Disgrace.
There were
So tell us.
many timelines in the life of Ken. But I'm gonna try and just keep it to the gaming side of things.
Yeah.
But the TLDR, I did live my entire life wishing to become a doctor and did study for it and graduate for it, and am about a year off from actually becoming a neurosurgeon. But I dropped out of school.
Wow.
Wow.
Because it was an incredibly stressful life that I was living. And that was while simultaneously doing all of the things that I was doing on the side in the gaming space. For context, I can't sit still. I always have to be doing something or I go insane. But yeah, if I were to shift to a different timeline, I grew up simultaneously with gaming. So I would consider myself first generation esports. I was a viewer and a competitor in elementary school all the way up until my adulthood. So I had watched, experienced, created events for, participated in events for in the gaming and esports space. So that was like my passion growing up. Obviously not fit for a job for Asian parents.
Especially at that time.
Yeah. Fortunately, I actually did have a supportive mother who, when I was stressing out from school, I was able to give that a backseat and focus on the areas of my life where I was putting a lot of attention into, and that was gaming. Because I lied about my age to write for these websites. I was still in high school, under the age of 18, but at the time, in order for you to write for these websites, all you had to do is pitch their managing editor ideas. So I wrote for Nintendo Power, PC Gamer, IGN as a minor.
Yeah. They didn't know
Right,
that.
and they didn't know that. And then by the time I became 18, I was able to travel across the country to attend events like GDC and E3 and, you name it.
Rip E3.
Rest in peace E3.
Exclusive.
Yeah. Somewhere along that line, I had the honor and privilege of meeting a lot of people in the gaming space, whether it was interviewing game developers, meeting owners of esports teams, and I was just able to rack up gig after gig after gig. I worked at Square Enix as a community manager for Final Fantasy for a number of years. I wrote and did publications for Riot Games when they were still growing their grassroots esports team for League of Legends. And then somewhere along the lines, I had met my current boss, Steve, at I believe an E3 at the Curse Gaming booth. He came up to me through a connection that my editor had, said, hey, you're a huge esports fan, maybe you should talk to the owner of this team. Huge fan of Curse at the time, so I was internally gushing. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting to meet Steve. But hi, nice to meet you, you know?
Keep it professional, you know?
Yeah, kept it professional.
Keep it together.
But I don't know what came over me, what demon possessed me. I basically told him everything he was doing wrong. And he hired me on the spot. I told him esports is still small, it needs more content, it needs more storytelling, it needs more production, it needs more finesse, blah, 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 blah. Handed me his card and said, email me, but basically I'm already gonna hire you.
Wow, that's crazy.
So that's where my life ended up. And then obviously through the honor and privilege that was Team Curse, then Team Liquid, I met all kinds of interesting people. One of my mentors is he was the former CEO of Mattel and invented basically the modern Nerf gun. So I got to meet a lot of idols in the gaming space. Yoshi P from Final Fantasy, big one for me.
You met Yoshi P?
Yeah, of course. He was my boss. We need a translator, but.
Wow.
And then from there I just racked up experience after experience, opportunity after opportunity, and then here I am now. Hopefully that wasn't too sporadic, because that is my life in a nutshell.
That's
First
incredible.
Of all, I'm very impressed. I wrote impressive because I just saw like lines on a LinkedIn profile.
Oh, my LinkedIn's
hearing this story,
outdated.
this is insane.
Understatement, huh?
I just went like 100x unimpressive.
I think
Second
that,
of all-
there's like a way to call it out too, because it's like everyone that's been like involved in esports and like video games from like the past 20 years, every one of those events are like massive. But if you were not in that space, you're just like, I have no idea what he just said.
What is that?
Right?
Yeah.
Curse, like Square Enix. Well,
Yeah, there's a
All
lot
of us
of
know what those are.
Yeah, those are giants in the respective fields.
Absolutely.
And,
there's a lot of jargon. I spewed stuff out, so hopefully the audience maybe understands some of it.
They can internet research.
I feel like most of TalkGA's audience would understand
okay.
that. Yeah.
You're speaking the right crowd. But how did you get into Grand Archive?
Okay. I'll give you the straight answer. It's this guy. He's very passionate about Grand Archive, and that passion was infectious. And one of my personal philosophies is that we should do things that channel the passion you're currently in, right? So he was big into it, and I was just decided, okay, I'm just going to support that passion. So here, we push into the Grand Archive space. The less direct answer is, okay, after having entered the Grand Archive scene a little bit, doing content through things he wanted to do, he had interactions with the short teams where we were getting to do some, more sponsored content. It gave me an opportunity to see the community and the dev team firsthand, right? And one of the things that I'm incredibly passionate about is helping build out communities, helping build out grassroots scenes. I need to word this properly. The Grand Archive community reminds me of the olden esports days. It's very passionate, it's very grassroots, the people are incredibly lovely. I don't know how long it will stay that way as the game grows and scales, but currently in its current state, it's just a wonderful community. And I wanted to take that opportunity to provide my time, energy, and resource into kind of growing that, so.
Wow. Oh my! I was about to cry a little bit when you started talking about the community part. Seriously, because I see it and I feel it too. It is the way that you described it really well, very eloquently put. Moving on a little bit. Speaking of passion, Mr. Passion here, Shinja.
Yeah.
At this point, there is not one Discord. I'm not a part of a lot of Discords, but there's not one Discord I'm not part of that Shinja's not part of. He's in every one of my Discords, I think.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like, even when I'm not playing or competitive, it's like I do want to go into those secret, super secret stuff, right? So it's like I'm just there.
Yeah.
I'm just observing. I may not talk a lot on them, but I am there.
Spyja.
Yeah.
He's in the Solar Games Discord too.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this?
Even I'm not on the Solar Games Discord. I'm sorry.
I'm everywhere.
He's everywhere, yeah.
If GA's on there, then I'm in.
What are you doing in the NorCal Discord? You're not from NorCal.
I'm in Arizona's Discord too. Yeah, I mean, just a little bit about me, right? I'm actually really new to TCGs, actually, which most people don't know about me, like I got in right around the COVID era, like most people actually. I started with Pokemon, but mainly because my other buddies at the time wanted to join like the break hype, right? Like they wanted to stream on Twitch, why not, whatever, right? And they were like, it was like this, they made it work, but there was like, this guy lived in one city and his other friend lived in this city. So they would like hop on a Discord call and they would split the inventory so that way I can open and then, oh, do you want to rip this one? They'll like go back and forth. And it was doing pretty well, right? So it got to a point where, hey, like, do you want to move into like a studio so that way we're all in one location, that way we'll have this vibe? And they're like, cool. And then I just basically offered, like, I was basically like a mod or like viewer, and I was like, I'll just manage your PC so it doesn't explode while both of you are on there, right? So I basically became like their IT guy, right, basically. So that's how I got into TCG, because I'm just watching them and like, oh, like I'm learning about Pokemon and the whole like collector space. And then that's how I met Tops and Top Spot. And then eventually I started working for him. So that's how I got really into the collector space. So that he started carrying like Weiss, and it was over. My wallet died, you know, started buying all these products. And then through Top Spot, we got the ever faded email from distributors about GA, and we started doing a research about that. And I joined the Discord, and the rest is history, basically.
Yeah, I remember it was like day one, he like pops into the Discord. He's like, I'm just like here to like look around. And I think we had sussed out like the TM32 YouTube channel from that, and we were like, all right, it's pretty small, but they make pretty good content. What if we just like throw stuff at him? You think he'll make content for us?
I think it was either Roger or Sil, but he's like, hey, do you guys want to open up like the first edition box? And I was like, whoa, hell yeah. And before that, you know, they had a pre-release thing at a little local, so we went there and I got to see the cards for the first time and stuff. So I made like a little, I think it's super jank, but I made a little like retrospective about that experience in GA, and it seemed like the team liked it. So that after that is when they offered to send the box. And then I personally think I did something pretty cool, or we did something pretty cool with that box. We went to 3 different types of stores. We went to a store that backed the Kickstarter. We went to a store that kind of knew about GA, and then a store that also has not heard of GA. So we opened that box with those 3 owners, and we got it was kind of like an interview with those 3. So I felt like it was super different. It was very fun. I got to learn a lot from those 3 owners. They're super great, super smart people. So yeah. Yeah.
Then we made this beautiful couch mat. And couch we were like thinking of like, all right, how do we like showcase or advertise this? And we're like, why don't we just send it to Shinja? See what happens.
Easy.
I do want to say it was not my idea. I got the mat and I was like, what do you want to do with this thing? And all the jank ideas are like 90% his. Yeah. And it's so fun. Like, if you guys don't know the blanket meme like from this, it's like a super old inside joke. But that video is still up, I think. But it's so many like fun little ideas like that just come with like, hey, here's product, or what do you think about this? And then I bring it up to Ken, and then we just kind of go back and forth. It's weird because like we're very like, he has a bunch of weird ideas, and then I'll go look at him like, is it possible or not? And then we merge.
Yeah, here's a TM secret. You know, most people think, especially we have some pretty I think like well done and well written skits, especially in the Pokemon era of TM32. And people are go, oh man, they must plan things out, they must write things out. No, I usually come up with the ideas like 2 hours before we shoot. Like I go, hey, we should do this, and then I just basically punt the idea off to him. And he's like, okay. Like the intro skit for this video, I was in the car ride from Vegas, I believe, and I was just like, I think this would be cool. I'll just type it up to Mark.
Yeah. I mean, go back a step further and be like, the origin of this collab idea.
It was you. It all started with that one reply on Twitter. But yeah, I mean, that's just me. Like a lot of. I really love the game, as most people can tell, and I'm just fortunate to be in the place I am.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the first videos I've ever watched was the interview that you and him did, Roger did. You're opening packs and then looking at all the cards. I'm like, these cards look pretty sick.
Yeah, they were pretty sick.
That was me sussing out this game, whether I was going to put like real cash.
That was like your research.
You're now the research material.
It was really funny, right? Because now, like before, you guys are just like people, like we're content creators, right? But now you're like friends. You, Dan, Dan's interview was a big, like honestly, Dan's interview also helped a lot. The main deck interview with I think it was Alan.
Yeah.
About like the theory thinking behind it was also what drove me to like go beyond from like just playing a game with Fome to like actually like buying cards. Like I'm scouring eBay for 1E boxes and stuff. You know, doing my solar game stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, but we have more guests. Cherry, you're the newest member. Are you the newest member of TM32? Do you
I think technically Leo is first, right?
Leo is
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
you are
Cherry.
new.
I am brand new.
So what's that like? What? So you know everything about TM32. Give us all the secrets.
Oh man.
So,
Okay.
like,
Get ready to bleep things out.
just give them the link. It's fine.
Redacted.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
For context, like before all of this, I was VTubing full time, and that was so like behind the camera, like no one knows my face or anything. So this is like, whoa, like how did I get here? But
Go
when,
follow Shino.
but when people ask me like what's like working with TM32, like the best comparison I can give is because we're such a small team and like we're doing really big events and like that's really new to us. It's honestly what I imagined working at a startup is like, because like timelines are like so like short, like things are coming up like really fast, projects are huge, and like we kind of have titles, but we also kind of we all just wear different hats because, you know, things need to get done. But it kind of works because it's like when one person is like a little too busy, it's like the next person will pick up the slack and things like that. So it's super, super fast paced. It's also my first TCG as well. So like this whole space and everything is like really new to me. So it's been really fast, but really, really fun. And it's just really nice seeing like the stuff that we work on, the way that kind of brings community together and it helps connect people to something that makes them really, really happy and joyful. Like it's really a privilege to be able to do that.
It's a privilege to have you here.
It's a privilege.
Fuzzies.
You're a great addition. I mean, I think so.
thank
Yeah, you're
you.
very. I was very impressed by your skills at when we were casting.
Oh yes, the 10 hours of
You guys were a fantastic casting team.
So
That
Cherry
was so
for
good.
Ontario casting, you know?
you get 60 minutes maximum. I'm gonna time it.
Finals.
Oh, you said it.
Can you bleep that?
You get total.
Yes, thank you.
All right, I think we have one more guest, not from TM32, or maybe it's like secret agent. I don't know. At this point, like I'm sussing. All right, it's Roger. I think this.
Okay, this is my first time on TalkGA, right? Because last time was on Market
Gosh,
Full
you're on.
Game.
Well, no. Yeah.
Yeah, technically.
Sure.
Yeah, you did an interview.
This is the first time. I think second time maybe all of us are on TalkGA because this is a new channel.
True. Everything's poured over. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, but you know we've done multiple interviews. One directly with you, me and you. One with the dev interview, and now you're here on TalkGA.
Yeah.
Third appearance.
Covering my bases.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So for the people who have not seen the other two, you want to give a quick little intro about who you are, what you do?
Yeah. So my name is Roger. I am one of the developers of Grand Archive, specifically the director of operations. And what that entails is anything that is not art-based or gameplay-based, I cover. So from production to fulfillment to delivery to sales to, I guess some part of it is now like community building, both within, outside of the US. You know, how do we build up distributors, but how do we support stores? And how can we grow their own audiences? And so that's why, you know, a lot of discussion with you guys as long-term TCG players and collectors, but also like people that are fairly new to the TCG scene is really fascinating, because I think the challenges some other games end up coming to is that they just hire from people within the industry, because that's what you do, right? You're like, you know, what have you done? Oh, I've been in TCGs for the past 10 years. You know, this is what we've always done. This is how we do things. But you know, doing the same things are not necessarily the best, right? This is my first TCG as well. And I know that's pretty surprising, probably, maybe scary to some people. But I think we've proven at least those parts fairly cleanly. And it's like, you know, there is a lot of fresh perspective that comes with coming from outside of the space of like, well, you know, in my industry, we do things differently, and there's opportunity for change, that should be adopted, that maybe we haven't gone to the point of like, you know, TCGs are nowhere near the growth that esports have seen, right? Even though they've been around longer. VTubing is a completely new sphere of community building that TCGs aren't really exposed to. And so there's so many experiences we can pull from all of these new places. And it's exciting to be able to talk with content creators and like people from the community that have their own perspectives on this.
Yeah. I think I'll just add this part too is, I think without you on the team, Roger, we will never have seen this high quality of a card stock.
No.
Like I've never seen someone put so much effort into a card stock. And like, yeah, if we just hired somebody from a different...
We'll just use whatever Cardmundi's doing. Just
exactly. We're going to get poker cards that,
Yeah, at our events, I've had so many new players be like, the card stock is super nice in this game. Wow, the backs are like all shiny embossed. Yeah, excellent job.
Makes a huge difference. Yeah. Okay, so second thing is the reason why we're all here. It's like SoCal invaded us, basically.
Well, Fome said he was going to cook for us, so that's why we're here.
Oh, that's Chef Fome.
I was kneading the dough all morning.
Thank you.
It was really good, by the way.
Thank you.
Very good.
I appreciate you guys eating my cooking.
This is no lie. It was some of the best pizzas I've had, and I've been around. And I mean, I've eaten a lot of pizza. I'll just say that. But it was really good.
All right, so Roger came and basically scammed all of our locals yesterday.
Yeah.
True.
Tony the farmer deck.
Yeah.
Plowshares to swords. Can you explain a little bit, like, well, first of all, like, inspiration behind your deck? It's not a pre-con. It's a personal build. I want to hear some inspirations for this deck.
Yeah. So, like the process backwards, I was like, I should go to my locals. I want to go to my locals, right? Like I've used the excuse before of like, oh, I'm too busy to play my game, but it's like, at the end of the day, like if I'm not on the ground playing with like my local community, then I can't really have like legs to stand on of like, how do I grow this? How do I talk about like the positives and negatives? And already like the community last time I came was so welcoming. So I was like, I want to go and play, but I need a deck. And I was like, okay, I'm in the factory. We should have cards anyway, but it's like, what cards can I source? And originally I was thinking through of like, I want to play like a Sylvie green slime build that like, flashes and flickers green slime and like young beast bonder a couple times, just like to make some monster. Cause I think that's like a fun meme that no one's been competitive with. And so I just like want to try that. And I was like putting together cards and I realized I don't have any Zephyrs. I don't need green slimes. Yeah. Like all of these FTC DOA cards we've shipped out, and I don't have them in the factory anymore.
Yeah, you're
handwriting them.
Why are you hitting us up being like, hey, do you have signals for us? I'm like,
Can I borrow Fairy Whispers?
Just go
do you
print them.
not?
You make the game.
You just like pull it out of your pocket?
can't you
like,
just
go to
be like,
Paimon?
hey, factory dude, print me this.
Like one up. But yeah, so I was like writing them all down, and then eventually I was like, wait a minute, we're making this new set. Well, I was already gonna throw like Academy Guide into my Sylvie deck. I just like full pivot to like a new set anyway. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, to be honest, I shouldn't be playing anything competitive. Like at one point, I don't want to be like providing any like misdirection over what is gonna be a competitive list. And on the second point, I don't want to be winning my locals and being like, haha, my price bags.
Nice excuse. Great excuse.
With not legal cards.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'll just take this like jank brew, because the moment I saw like Tony 3's effect of like, replace an herb with a sword, I was like, okay, that and all of these herbs. Well, his effect's not replace an herb, it's replace a token with a sword. But I was like, there's something jank here that can be brewed on.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I'll get it there, but I'm just gonna throw whatever says summon herb and whatever says make token and to a giant sword deck and see how it goes. Yeah. And that was the genesis of it. And then it was more like like some of these cards aren't spoiled. Wouldn't it be a fun way to like spoil cards by like going to locals and being like, hey, see what CSR I'm playing. Hey, see what card I'm playing. Oh, that's not spoiled yet? Take a picture, set it online so I can play this legally.
And that's why random spoilers showed up on Discord out of nowhere.
It's justified.
It literally from a dev being like, I'm gonna play you with this unspoiled card yet. Have you seen this before? And like they're like, what? What?
It's like, oh, I bet you've never seen this before, please.
Literally like in Yu-Gi-Oh! When like they're like Kaiba takes out his 4 blue eyes and like, I've never seen anyone have that before.
Yeah.
Technically, there's only 3.
3 blue eyes.
He ripped the last one. You're only allowed 3 per deck.
The Lord.
That's why he ripped.
He changed the rules specifically for his deck.
Grandpa's gone, yeah.
Rigged. I actually caught a moment where he was playing and then his opponent did something. I don't remember what it was, but he was like, you know, it's actually better if you like do the other thing, right? And his opponent's like, yeah, but I just want to see more of your deck. Intentionally slow playing just to see what happens next from Roger's hand.
Yeah, it was like a covert advertising for ALC too. And you know, I played 2 guys that I met for the first time this time, and so far it worked. Like they were really excited to see the deck. And I think it's like fun ways of like re-engaging with the community of like, you know, I'm here to play and we can chat about GA, but also, you know, this is like an exclusive thing you'll be able to get if you play me. You're just like, here's a spoiler, there's a spoiler. You get slapped by like a 21 sword, no problem.
I think it was, you know, it worked because after that, it's like you baited someone to buy another case, you know?
Yeah, so should we move forward to our main topics for today?
Of course.
All right, so topic number 1 is going to be community building. So we've talked a little bit about this prior on TalkGA, but I figured since we have TM32, we're blessing to, like basically the community builder of the Grand Archive community, probably other card games too, but I want to hear some experiences from you. So, you know, we at VPC, actually Fome ran the new player experience at VPC. We did like actually, you know what? Fome, why don't you just share the whole thing?
We were all running it, you know? Yeah. Like, you were demonstrating the game, Eva was helping out as well, showing a lot of the new players. I mean, so obviously it's nowhere to the extent of TM32.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you know, more almost worldwide community building. But at VPC, you know, we're just trying to get our own little scene going. And I think early on we realized, you know, it's one thing to start a first event, a bunch of people come, but then it's another thing to make sure they come every week and stay invested into the in the game. And one issue you'll encounter is like after that initial period where everyone's on the same page and learning how the game works, they're all like get quickly pretty advanced into the game. And then if someone new joins after that, they like feel very behind. They have to obtain all these singles and learn a bunch of mechanics that they haven't heard of. So we thought it was really important to continue doing these like learn to play type events. I think we'll probably do them on a regular basis at VPC. But we did our first a couple months ago, and we had the demo decks that Citsacras very kindly provided us, and I think it was a really successful event. You know, I think we mentioned like 30 or so people came. So.
But a huge turnout, yeah. We actually had a lot of the Magic players like try. So VPC has a pretty big Magic crowd, I think. They definitely know a lot of them like word of mouth pass along to each other. They come check out this game, so it's really, really cool. In fact, I was converting at the end of VPC yesterday. There were a bunch of Magic players that were trying to get our table.
No.
I just, you know, I chat with everybody.
I saw you doing that.
And then they're like, oh, Magic player. I'm like, oh yeah, I like Magic. But I like this game more now.
Ooh.
Now
Yeah,
I'm like,
they're like,
why?
what is this?
I'm explaining to them like in Magic terms what Grand Archive is, and of course I invite them to like the starter deck tournament that we're running soon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I think the next phase of this is, you know, obviously we're going to continue to have more new player experiences, but there's going to be things that maybe we can have some of the more experienced players collide with all the new players as well. So a starter deck tournament where it's pure starter decks, pre-con, no like, you know, additional stuff is both easy to engage with, and then also we can get like a lot more players to show up and play. That will be another way that we're going to try, at least on our local level, to get more players to get involved with the game.
Yeah.
Cool. But I want to know, like, growing this Grand Archive community, like, bigger beyond this stuff, right? So obviously, Grand Archive is very LGS focused. So you guys want to talk a little bit more about that perspective, like the whole LGS like side of things? Maybe Roger, you can tell us like why Grand Archive or Weebs to the Shore has this focus on the LGS model. Why not go to Amazon? Why not go to Target and just sell Grand Archive everywhere today?
Yeah, so from that standpoint, it's really not, well, there's twofold, right? To be able to sell on Amazon and big box stores is implying that you'll be able to do all of the community building yourself, which implies a large surplus of cash and experience and infrastructure already set up, because you're effectively selling direct. Like Walmart and Amazon and Target are not gonna build your community for you. They don't have a place to play. They don't have people running tournaments for you. So you're effectively saying, I'm gonna do this, and I either expect my player base to source location, source a TO, source a judge, source prizing for themselves, and put that all together, or I'm going to source all of that for my players. And both might be viable routes. Like board games sell online very easily because all you need is like your kitchen table to play, right? That's the play space you need. Like small card games, not small card games, but like, you know, self-contained card games like Cards Against Humanity also do the same because they're more reflective of that board game style. But TCGs are completely different beasts where like your type of player catering to is, you know, on one hand looking for that shoulder experience, but on the other hand, you want a more organized, you know, tournament setting. And so that's why, you know, you can do that approach if you're gonna funnel your entire like budget into supporting that, or you go and opt for the LGS route, in which an LGS has already catered to a community, has the play space, has the support and experience to run events. What do you like get in return? What is the trade-off here? If you sell direct, you know, you're selling at that MSRP price. You take in more margin, you can make more money. If you sell through distribution and then sell through LGSs, you know, you're taking effectively a cut on that price. But what you're effectively trading in is you're like, I'm giving the store my share of revenue and I expect this product to like sell well for you. And in this case, you have financial incentive as a store to then build the community, right? The larger your community grows, the more product you can sell, the more money you can bring in. And so that's how a store then balances like, you know, what is my ROI on table space for Magic versus Flesh and Blood versus Grand Archive versus Pokemon. And so all is to say it's like very economical in the how you need to, or how we view it is, how I view it is. It's not just like good faith of like, we want to support stores or like we want to make more money. It's more of like, you know, this is the path for success and we do it in partnership with stores because it's what will eventually grow both the store community, both the game community in the long run. That's most scalable and approachable for us, especially as a startup. And so given that now we need to commit to this direction or we have committed to this direction, how do we best support stores? Because we also just can't say, okay, we're selling through distribution, stores now do your thing. It's in your best interest. That's very condescending from a publisher to say that. And so now we need to go through the steps of like, how can we convince stores that this is worth their time to pick up, that this will, you know, be a positive ROI for them, and then provide them the support as well to like bring them to like the end goal. Because they have so many games to focus on. There's so many options that they really need you to explain to them why this one is the best one, or at least to give like some time or focus on.
Yeah, and I think just to continue off his point, if you put your game in big box retailers, that means you have hit a point of scale in your business where the convenience of the accessibility of your product is more important, right? Like Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, and Pokemon deserve to be there, right? But if I see a smaller game at a big box retailer store, I'm gonna be straight up, I'm gonna say that just signals to me that you do not care about building the community. It means you sold out and you are trying to profit off of more sales. Right, and he's right? Like, if the companies are not supporting the LGSs that ultimately are the lifeblood of where the community is in this particular industry, then that means you have glossed over community building as part of your strategy altogether, right? And that's why when he told me that, you know, we can't be on Amazon because of XYZ, I was like, he gets it. You know, like they get it.
And then, you know, I think part of it too is like a lot of this converges on the LGS, but from you guys' side, TM32, right? You guys are building the grassroots from the player side. Because I can also see players walking into stores. If they keep saying like, I watched like TM32's video. It's about Grand Archive, whatever this thing is. I want you guys support it. And the store keeps saying no, they're turning away business. So at some point they're gonna go talk to distribution, which effectively signs them on. So how do you build that? How do you build the grassroots from the player side?
My philosophy with like building a local, right? It ultimately falls into like three things. Like you need these three things in order to have a successful local scene, right? You need a champion of that game, right? So for you guys, like it's like Fome, Eva, and you at VPC, and then for us, it's like me, for example, or SoCal's a little spoiled. There's actually quite a bit of passionate people down there as well. Then you have someone like Lime in Australia, right? So you do need these people there that's just like, I'm super passionate about the game. I will die on my mountain. Like this is my game kind of thing, right? Like you need those types of people. But conversely, you know, these people have lives, right? They're not at the store 6 days of the week out of the 7, right? Like, sure, your local's 1 day of the week. What happens at the other 6, right? So you do need an employee of the store to also be it doesn't have to be as passionate, but just like the game enough to where if someone walks in and sees Grand Archive on the shelf, or is just like, maybe they're playing local and it's like, man, I hate X game, like, screw this game. Well, I overhear that as a store owner and go like, oh, well, you should try Grand Archive, right? It's just like, it doesn't matter how passionate you are of the game if you're just not there, right? So, and I say that because like for me, when I used to work at TopSpot, like I was also that guy, you know, I'm like, have you heard of Grand Archive or Weiss back then? And a good example also is there's a store near our area called RWT. They're a fairly recent store. They opened not too long ago, but the owners of that store is super passionate about GA. So they're just there to like, if someone's there, they can like show for it, but also teach the game on the spot right then and there because they also know how to play. So those are like the two biggest ones. Yeah. The third one does help, and that's accessibility to product, right? And that's something that was a little bit of a struggle in the beginning for GA. It's gotten a lot better now. And then hopefully with ALC does solve most of the issues, but it doesn't matter how passionate you are of the game, doesn't matter how good the employee thinks of the game. If that store does not have product to sell you, it does kind of turn off that player, right? Where it's like, oh, do you have a starter deck? Like, or maybe they do have a demo deck and they learn how to play and it's like, great, but the demo deck is technically not legal. It's like a 30 card deck or whatever. So, all right, hey, can I get into the game more? Sorry, I just ran out of starters, or oh, you're gonna have to go buy singles online, or whatever it is, right? So those 3 key points I think are pretty important. Now the employee of the game or employee of the store could be the champion, right? So it is interchangeable, and I've seen communities be built without stable product as well. So it's not like you need all these 3 to be like guaranteed, but I think those 3 are pretty solid indicators. It does take a lot of work to build something from zero, right? Like if your store doesn't support it or not many people are there, that's a lot of work that you have to do. Before DOA was released, we printed, I basically net decked like 4 decks or something like that, 4 variations. Went to a print shop, printed 3 copies of every single deck, print and play, cut them all out, found Pokemon bulk, sleeved every single one of them, and then hosted a learn to play because, you know, for me, I felt like having the experience of kind of playing the game, including what a card stack might feel like, is much better experience than like a super thin deck of just pieces of paper, right? And, you know, then we were like, oh, you can have free pizza, and then we raffled off stuff. And so it's like the little tiny things, but yeah, it's like the first one we had like 20 something people very first time, and then a couple weeks before the actual launch we hosted another one that was like 30 something people. So I view those as success, right?
Along the lines of building something from zero, actually I had a question to turn to Cherry because I think, you know, for Victory Point Cafe, we were in the privileged position that they were already supporting the game, and we just came in and started running it. But like, I know you've been quite active in like approaching places that maybe have never even heard of Grand Archive before, and you would have to pitch it to them and like get them on board. So like, what was that like? You know,
it's definitely scary. Like the biggest problem you run into is like, oh well, you know, I carried X game and like I got burned really bad. So like, I don't want to see that. And honestly, that's where making the NorCal GA server came from, was because like getting players into the store just to show them like this is real. Like there's actually people who want to play this game. They're like, I can see it. Like that makes a big impact. And like at first it largely started off with like our friend group, but then just people having that online space and seeing like, oh wait, like this is a thing in my area, or like I can go here and I can go there. Getting players into the store makes such a big help for the stores to see that, okay, there's actually interest here. I'm actually going to try it. It's like a really interesting like balance of like, hello store, like you should check this out, but then like needing to get people in there as well, so they have that insurance of like, all right, let's take a risk, like let's get it kind of going, and it all kind of like melds together, and like it's a very organic thing that happens, I would say. But like you two are like major champions for our area as well. Cause like Eva, our server grew so much because Eva's like telling all the new players, like when she meets them, and then Fome just does such a good job of like introducing players to the game as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and then they all kind of like come together, and then it's like, okay, this store is getting started, and we're just gonna keep giving them that support and that care to keep them going. And it's a lot of work. It's really hard, and especially like towards like with ALC coming up, like a lot of people are kind of like, I played FTC for a while now, so like I'm a little bit tired. And you kind of see something interesting where it's like more stores are getting in, and then like players are like, cool, like there's a lot happening in my community. I can step back now, and like I don't need to go to locals anymore. So you kind of see this weird contrast of like, oh, more stores are getting in, but players are suddenly like, I don't need to support anymore, and then there's kind of like that gap to fill.
Like a natural ebb and flow.
It's a really interesting way that everything works together.
Yeah, and that's kind of like a philosophy or concept thing we've been trying to tackle with as a company, because prior to this, it was very much like you had to have a champion that was super passionate, super willing to go out of the way to do that, and that's not scalable, right? As much as I would love for people to be like, I'm a GA player, I'm gonna go out there, talk to every store, convince people to play, demo the game. Like that's like your top 1% of like your community that will like potentially get there. And that's not something you can build a scalable company or community off of. And so oftentimes we're taking it back, being like, okay, what is, helpful? What lets people of the 10% now do the same thing that 1% was doing? How can we lower that barrier of entry of effectively being like, oh, I work full time, I really do like GA, but I don't have the time to like print out all these decks, or like the financial resources to buy all these starters, or like the time to just go around. And so it's like, what can we provide as a company to help simplify that process? And so that's where, in one sense, the ALC launch kit came from, because it's the same thing on the store side to be like, okay, I want to run GA, but you're telling me I need to buy X, Y, and Z. I need to have people in. I need to, give them prizing now. Like that's a lot of financial burden as well as time. And so we're like, okay, you know what? Like, we'll take it on ourselves. We're going to provide every single store a launch kit that'll include, 16 demo decks, promo cards that are exclusive to the launch, a demo playmat, a poster to put up in your store. This is all just to say like, thank you for buying GA. This is like a launch kit event in a box that you can just take with and run. And I think the same ethos will eventually come with like ambassadors or champions of like, what can we do to lower the burden for people to want to champion the game? Or to not need to commit that financial burden or time, but be like, hey, I really like GA. Can you send me like a bundle or something to get started from my store that I can take in and run a learn to play? And to like, so if we can provide all of the actual physical goods, maybe the graphics or promotions, set up the connections with the store and distributors, and like bundle that all together, this provides like a very easy, pick up and go for like across the world essentially for any player or store. So that's what the kind of like the long-term vision is for some support product like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually heard a lot of feedback from store owners that are saying, oh, we love running Grand Archive events because Weebs provide such great prizing support.
Yeah, and that's where I like the whole idea of like, when I've heard that other games charge for like OP pricing, it didn't really make sense to me, right? Because like on one point, as a company, you're like, well, I don't want to lose money on this product. But it's like, think a little bit past like your revenue cycle of like this product. Like I think a lot of companies just say like, all the OP product I make is like a net loss against my income sheet. This is all like sacrifices as a company I am taking. But it's like, if you think about it further, if that OP kit brings in one additional player and that person buys an additional box and that store is then like adding on to their order, and that money is coming back to you, it's already paid for itself. Like how much did that launch kit cost you to make? How much did that like 5 pieces of plastic or cardboard cost you to print out? And that's why it's like for some publishers, it's really short-sighted to be like, to lock your kind of like OP support behind so many paywalls and or approvals. You should want this to be like as abundant as possible in order to bring in more people, just to be like, hey, look, we are willing to provide support. We are willing to like, give you free product to grow the gaming community.
Yeah, and I think your support for the stores is like really, I think for a lot of stores, it's a breath of fresh air. I don't think they've seen this type of support for a lot of other games. I mean, the specific like promo packs, whatever, those are pretty standard, across the game. But it's also about quantity too. Like I've literally gone to Magic events and it's like we kind of ran out because the stores have to buy like a certain amount of pre-release kits to get like basically a booster box, and there's nothing special about the booster. It's just a booster box. It's like I've heard complaints where it's like it's a booster box. So I open it, I throw away like 14 cards, and the 15 card most likely is a bulk rare too. I throw that away. Versus like having a chance to get a CSR that's exclusive in an EVP. It's insane. I've never seen this kind of support, right? But the OP support goes even beyond LGS. It's like to bigger events. Like everybody shows up to a GA event, gets a playmat. That's insane.
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh, that's a top 32 prize. You get top 30. We laugh about it, but the Yu-Gi-Oh player all know this. I mean, they complain to me about this at events. They're like, this is so cool. Like if you make top 32, you get a special playmat. But otherwise, I still walk out with a playmat, no matter what. I 03 scrub, playmat. Easy, right? So we're talking about events. Lots of events. Okay. So you guys have ran a couple events, TM32.
Just a
few.
Tiny.
And we'll be running a few more.
Yeah.
Some of them bigger than others. Potentially a very large event.
Whatever.
Yeah. So I'm curious because I went to your regionals.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
DOA regionals.
Second place.
I quit Grand Archive. So looking back on the regionals, you've actually ran 2 of them so far, right? What are some like reflections, thoughts, just briefly, like how did you think about those regionals? What are things that you've improved from first to second, etc.? What are some changes, differences?
A lot. We learned a lot. That's the big thing. Hosting event, at least for me, was very new. As I kind of hinted at in our teaser kind of thing because we did make a video to advertise the regionals. I went from I used to work at a Best Buy, right? Basically no event, right? I'm just there to work 9 to 5. I'm just gonna go home and play video games, kind of guy, right? To and now I'm hosting kind of locals at Top Spot in a way. Like I was mostly the guy behind the counter, and I'm really good at sales, so I was the sales guy, but I was still trying to host some of these events or locals, and then. Oh shoot, I'm hosting a regionals. Oh shoot, we're helping with this end. Oh my god, we're doing worlds now. So it's
how did that happen?
Yeah. It's the scale of things has gone up for me. Which for me is very new. It's not so much newer for Ken, which is why I think we are doing so well, is because he has that experience. So yeah, but we definitely learned, especially between the first and second regionals. I think at the time the first regionals was the biggest one. It was 111 people signed up to play. Not just buy the ticket. No. It was 111 people who sat down and actually played. So that was quite a large amount of people. But there was a delay and it ended pretty late and stuff like that. So which okay, cool. After that, it's okay, why was there a delay? Why did it take so long? What were some of the hurdles? A lot of the complaints that the players had. Cool, noted, right? Keep that in my back of my head. Second regionals comes around. All right, how do we prevent that from happening again? Luckily, we knew exactly why there was a delay. So we're all right, as long as we don't do that, we're good. Did not happen. So it started on time.
Ultimately, events for us is just does each one get better than the last? Within that event, there was a lot of negative feedback, little things like, the way we handled the raffle or the way maybe the FTC premiere was handled, that I then wanted to take to the second one, and be okay, we've improved on all those things. It was I will admit, in my heart, it was a little bit sad to only get 48 people for factors outside of our control. Maybe the FTC season was weak or whatever it may be. But it was
we're hosting the same weekend as BlizzCon.
Yeah, we're hosting the same weekend as BlizzCon. It was pretty big as well.
And there's more regionals now. It's it's a little bit like the first one, the entirety of California, out of state, all traveled to SoCal.
Guess took our audience.
We stole the NorCal people.
Overall, more people were able to attend regionals.
Which is a good thing. I do want to point out, it's good to have more regionals.
Yeah, so now with Ontario, we're looking at Ontario and going, okay, how do we make Ontario cooler than Houston? It's a tough undertaking, right? Events, are really hard and challenging, and the amount of thoughtfulness required from the people who are hosting the events is immense. Even for things that are really small, like even getting a group of 6 people to come to a store is like, you gotta sync schedules, you gotta plan, you gotta create a banner, you create a graphic, right? There's a lot of thoughtfulness that goes into it, and that just scales up even more when you're thinking like hundreds, thousands, whatever amount of people. So I just wanted to like pass it to someone like you who hosts, smaller events. How challenging can it sometimes be even just to create those, right?
It's hard. It's hard, like getting people motivated to show up, and it's always kind of like this domino effect where it's like, all right, once you got one person, the next person's like, all right, I'll go, and then maybe like a few more tag on. But like if that first person doesn't latch on to that second person, and like it doesn't really grow from there. Trade night at Card Art. Like how long ago was that?
That was a while ago,
A while ago. It was so funny because like I got back from the Wengenals and I was like, trade night's really cool. We've never had anything like that in NorCal. Let's just try it out. Like people were posting in the NorCal server, they were like, I want to buy and I want to trade, and like it wasn't really catching on. So I was like, okay, let's try to make like a physical space where people can go. So like I tried getting the conversation rolling in the server, and like maybe like 1 or 2 people were like, yeah, like, that sounds cool. Like I show up with a box of donuts. I'm like, yeah, it's probably gonna be like 4 people. 20 people showed up
that was really fun,
that night. And like we had as many players at Card Art that night for Grand Archive as we had for Yu-Gi-Oh, which was wild and like something I had never seen before, which is really exciting. But just kind of getting people excited and motivated and kind of getting them in that mindset of like, I'm gonna do this, like I'm part of this thing with this group, I'm committing to it, let's make it happen. It's really tricky, but definitely when you're starting with a store where people aren't as close and it's like, oh gosh, like I'm gonna show up with all these people I don't know, it's a lot harder. So I think there's a lot of benefit to be had to putting more love and care into growing an online space where people can kind of get to know each other, because that's like a lot less intimidating. But it's also really difficult to make an online space where people actually want to like go chat every day and feel really comfortable. So it's hard. It's possible though, and we've done it here in NorCal.
You've done a really good job cultivating our community.
Thank you.
We have like over 100 people now.
Over 100. It was enough to get us a regional. Yeah, but like I wouldn't be even for me, like I wouldn't be here without Fome. Like it was really easy for me to become a champion of the game because like me coming into it as someone who was new, like I didn't have the tools, I didn't have the knowledge. So like if I didn't know anything, I would just ask Fome and he would just tell me, like explain it to me. So like I kind of built my toolkit that way. You do kind of get like a little bit of a snowball effect sometimes when things kind of line up nicely. You raised a champion. You raised multiple champions.
No. It's like, I mean, I just wanted to play a game with my friends. And then, but it's awesome that you guys all like this game.
We like it.
Sometimes that's all it takes is like being inspired by someone who's really passionate about something, and it makes you go like, you know what, I want to try that too. Or like, I want to help spread that. Because that's cool.
Yeah, passion is infectious, you know?
That was about to say the exact same.
Coming from Mr. Passion himself.
Well, your story tears me up a little bit. To just see people go out of their way to do remarkable things because they believe in something so much is like, I don't know. That's...
Reverse Uno back at you.
This is the CryGA podcast.
Yeah, the CryGA.
This is CryGA.
We keep rebranding. Yeah, I'm just also surprised every single time I think about this. You guys talking about being new players to the games, and it's like, I would consider myself maybe a little bit more of a veteran of card games and stuff. And it's like, I can't believe a card game has done it. Like this thing where they brought the people who are super sweaty and super hardcore, super into mechanics and details, whatever, honestly care nothing about like anime art, into a game with a bunch of people who care about anime art, who love that scene, and are now learning the mechanics of it. I'm learning about weeb culture. I'm like a level 2 weeb now, I think. I don't know what level I need to be, but I'm getting there. And then, I just think that conversion is so cool. Right? And then the thing I love about card games, and I see this with every community, and that's not a Grand Archive thing, is that this thing about card games, something about it, like people are very willing to help. If you walk up and you say, I'm new to this card game, please make sure you tell people this, because very likely a veteran who's playing against you will like show you the ropes. They may play open hand, they may just like guide you through the whole thing, think about the moves, ask you where you're what you're comfortable, like being coached or not, etc. people are so helpful.
Mark was the first person I ever played at a local event. I remember being so scared that day because I'm actually quite like a shy person, like inherently. So I was like so nervous. I'm like, what is a card game local? Like I'm there, I have this deck, I kind of know how to play. And I was like, oh God, this guy has like a YouTube channel. I'm so scared. But he was so nice when we were playing.
It's like one of those sketchy finance dudes. I want to play against him. Like,
it goes
Says
a long
the person
way.
with the YouTube.
Oh my God, another YouTuber.
He has a YouTube channel about card games. I'm just like a non-threatening YouTuber.
Just a jellyfish.
I'm just a jellyfish. But like, we had a really great game. He was super nice. Like, he helped me out too. And like that kind of experience, it makes all of the difference.
Makes all difference.
Yeah.
So I think maybe my comment to the pro players too is spend that time. Like, don't just end the game, be like, buy a piece. Spend time, ask a question. Like, hey, do you want some people? Like, let's say you win, right? And it's like, you realize there's some things they could improve. Just ask like, hey, do you want to discuss the game a little bit? So one of the really easy, non-threatening way to say that is just say, hey, do you want to talk about your plays? Don't say something like, I saw problems with your plays.
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you what those are? Because that's really, threatening. Just say, do you want to talk about that game? Or, hey, do you want to check out my deck? Sometimes what I do is like, or sometimes I'll be vulnerable first. I'll say like, hey, I'm really curious. Was there anything I did wrong in this game that you saw? And then that opens up usually a door to them saying, hey, what about me, right? These are things you can do as maybe if you're on the other side, not the new player side, to kind of open that conversation, because I think we all want more players of the game. And how you do that is, as you're hearing from this conversation, it's all of us. You can't just rely on like Shinja's passion. You can't rely on like Cherry building like an infinite Discord server, or Fome and Eva taping up banners on everywhere, right, in the world, traveling the world taping up banners. It's not, but it takes all of us doing little bits and pieces that we're comfortable and we're good at to make this happen. And I think that's where, if you're passionate about the game, then spend a little time doing that as well. I think it will help a ton.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so. I'm gonna wrap. Let's bring this back. I do want to talk about GA Worlds because this is a huge event. That's the culmination, and you guys are planning this thing. It's insane, right?
For both of us, the team and us. Yeah, it's a massive event. There's a lot of things that we are planning to do. There's two sides of that, right? There's the top 16, like people who win all the nationals, right? They get invited, right? We will fly you out. We will pay for your travel, your accommodations. To come over, and then we're also having probably, or at least I'm hoping, some of the world-class casters, judges for that event. So we're hoping that it's like world's level, not just the players, but the whole experience, right? Then there's a broadcast on top of that, so that, hey, I'm like, not everyone can make it to Worlds, right? Maybe you live on the other side of the planet, costs a bajillion monies to get over here. Sure. Cool, you can just watch the event, right? Like, you don't have to come over here to experience it. You can just watch it, see some of the best players in the world play, and who knows, maybe they're playing the champion that you like, right? So maybe you can learn something, right? Then on the other side, there's Ascent Worlds, so maybe you do show up, right? Maybe, unfortunately, maybe you didn't qualify, but you just want to come and hang out. Cool. We just debuted at 3v3, right? So you and two of your friends can play, and there's some restrictions, right? There's like I guess the rule book for how many cards you can have in your deck and stuff still apply across all three of you. Right. And it's like one of the first times we're debuting a 3v3 event in GA, so it's also exciting there. But we also, at least from our side, we also see Worlds as Ascent Worlds as like not just a competitive event. We see Ascent as like, this is just kind of like the culmination, in Worlds especially, it's the culmination of everyone's passion for GA, from both the team, from us, players, casuals, competitive, whatever, collectors, right? So we're hoping that the things that we do, side events or decorations or other things like, cosplay, for example, all of that can just be like, oh my God, I want to go. If you do go, you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I went, right? That aside, some of the other stuff like price cards are pretty cool, right?
It's a little cool. Just a little bit. Beautiful. Really exciting because Path of Silver is going to be back again. Very exciting. As a more casual, like not competitive player, I'm really excited for it because it's almost going to feel like the convention, like the anime convention of Grand Archive, essentially, and it's in Vegas. So like you know how people go to Anime Expo, they're like, yeah, I'll just like spend the week in LA because it's LA and it's just like this all-encompassing experience. Like I feel like a lot of people will be able to get that from Worlds. So if you're on the fence about going, I highly recommend it.
Tickets are going. There's like over 400 to 500 tickets sold.
It's funny. We actually debuted a brand new ticket tier, technically, the Super VIP.
Super VIP.
That instantly gone.
Yeah.
VIP technically also were like a little slower, but also kind of gone instantly.
But even if you're not VIP, you're gonna have a great time.
Oh yeah.
So make sure grab your tickets.
At least we're hoping.
Like, and everything Shinja and Sherry said is like on point, but it's so much of that Worlds is a culmination of the entire year of GA of the community that we're investing a lot of time and resources into, because this is kind of like a pin on the map to be like, hey, other card games, other people looking in, other players that have been on the fence of like, is this game gonna stick around or not? Is it gonna make it to set 3 or year 2? Like, look at the event we're putting on. Look at everyone that's come out to play and celebrate this game. There is going to be a future here, and this is just the start of it. It's very much a huge marketing effort as well, for the stream and everything to live on YouTube, for people to be able to go through and look at the deck profiles and the different events and be like, wow, I want this to come to my country. What can I do to bring this here? And how can we also help you with that? And so that is the ideal of what Worlds should and hopefully will become.
Just a bit of backstory. Potential redacted, so pause and unpause. All right, so the original idea for Worlds was Sil purely wanted a World Championships. It was 16 players, all matches streamed, and he says, do anything it takes to make sure that the broadcast is good. Right? So at this time, there wasn't even a consideration for the Ascent portion of Worlds. However, discussing with him, discussing a number of other individuals on the team, when I happened to meet them, it just didn't make sense. Right? It didn't make sense for the World Championships, the pinnacle of competition, but also like a potential opportunity for weebs to put on the map that they can do something this cool, this remarkable. So I went to Sil, he gave me a number, I broke down the budget, I guess he took it to him, and then he was like, okay, I guess it's good. So Worlds, without going into all the details, it really is Weaves the Shore putting their money where their mouth is. Like they are investing substantial resources as well as their time to help make sure that this event is amazing for, I imagine a majority of the people attending this event are gonna be those passionate, what's the word? Early adopter? Like the people who have been investing a lot of their energy and their passion into the game, who are going to be attending this event. So we want to make sure that those people are treated with a remarkable experience.
We saw hints of that with Ascent Houston, right? It's like that was the very first event that won the team advertised way before even Ultra release, right? So people just knew. Kickstarter people knew. Anyone who's early adopters knew about it. You got into DOA Ultra, you knew about it. And the fact that all these people then showed up, and it's like, wow, this event was like fantastic. I'm meeting people that I made friends with on Discord for the first time. The competitive event was nice. Path of Silver was new and went really well. So that was like, that was the return for all these early adopters, right? So we saw that and we're like, Worlds has to be better than that, basically. And now there's a lot, and because because of how early it was so marketed, a lot of people also were not able to go, right? So that was the other thing. Which I guess it's like there's a lot of challenges with something like this massive event, right? Because that's kind of an understatement, but there's so many challenges because like what Ken said, like the team is willing to put the money where their mouth is, but we also have to consider we can't just burn the money away, right? So one of the hot topics was like, cool, we announced, or the team announced, top 16 of the World's bracket is single elimination, right? And that was considered because we not have to, but one of the biggest points was we have to stream every match, every single one. There's 100 matches, we have to stream all 100 of them, right? And because that was the initial thinking, they were like, okay, single elimination, it basically has like pretty much the least amount of matches, and we can spread them out, right? It's not like a round, it's kind of like round, whatever, right? So that's why we announced it that way. And there's some feedback with that. It's like, hey, you know, as a player, if I fly you out 18 hours you're stuck on a plane for 18 hours, you play one round, you're gone.
Yeah.
And then I get to fly 18 hours back, right? And as a player, that kind of sucks, you know? So, but as like a company and as us, who want to stream every match and use it as potential like marketing and potential sponsors for future worlds or whatever, it's like, well, like not streaming the match is not an option, but also, as a player coming from a player side, I do get it that flying 18 hours and then losing one game and then you're done, right? That we also understand that does suck. So that's like one of the challenges for us. It's like, okay, do we change the format? If we go to like something like Swiss or Top, it's like there's so many more rounds now. I can't really just stream every match anymore. Okay, well, there's double elimination. That's possible. So it's like now we're thinking like, what format can we do? What's the compromise here? Because we want obviously the players to feel nice, right? You know, you're going to the biggest event you would like to play, but also it's like we do have to think about, okay, we're spending that much money. We have to make sure that's going to a good place, right? So that's like the biggest challenge, at least for me, because I'm handling the broadcast, right? So that's like my thing. Ascent Worlds, one of the big challenges is 3v3 gonna do well, right? Like that was a big risk that we're taking, or the team is taking, because now we have to think about new rules, like because now the rule for the deck is now spread amongst all three of you. The challenges of labor, like if I'm deck checking a table, that's now 6 days, you know, like that's like 6 decks I have to check within time frames. Then theoretically, that's also like more judges I have to do. So there's just so many challenges that like behind the scenes, no one will think about, right? And you just show up to the event, it's either good or bad, right? And if it's good, no one thinks about it, which is good. And if it's bad, it's like, oh, the event's bad because of X, Y, and Z, right? And there's also like weird, like something that you'll never think about is like, okay, we're hosting 3 nationals in 3 different regions. How do we do pairing for top 16? Because normally you do Swiss and then it's like, okay, you do top, whatever, 16 cut or whatever it is. And then you go, okay, 1st and 16 go, and then 2 and 15 and blah, blah, and just kind of work down the list. Well, what places, you know, 16th at NA versus 6, you know, whatever the bottom cut is.
4th at Asia to like, let's say 5 at NA.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, we don't really have an Omnidex out yet for those regions, and it hasn't been tested extensively. So we don't know, like, you know, like we were kind of talking about this, like StarCraft is a really good example, for example, right? Like Korea, everyone knows Korea's StarCraft scene is just crazy, right? So, but then you go to like a minor region and go, okay, well, like if I'm Grandmaster in Korea, I'm really freaking good. But then if I'm Grandmaster in a different region, are you as good? Like, you know, like there's not, generally it's like not really, right? Because just the level of competition is just not up to that level, but on paper, you are the same rank, right? So that's like the huge like challenge for us. It's like, how do we do pairings, right? And we have a couple ideas. We're still working that out, but that's just the little things that you may not even think about. But that's something that like, oh my god, like how do we do that?
Right. Yeah. All the planning culminates into 3 days basically. Right. And it's like live. You can't like pause, give us like another 24 hours to think through this thing and then we'll resume it, right? You can't do that. It's go time. It's go time.
Yeah. Once that Friday hits, stream goes live and it's game time. You know?
It's a huge undertaking. You know, I have worked with large events in the past, and man, like they have teams working on these events, right? Like the team that's the size of TM plus Weaves is just working on the store alone, right? Like they have a team of 10 working on the store, the merchandise. And then we're like, oh man, we're flying the ship while it's flying, we're still building. Thank you for joining us.
And Leo too. Leo's not here, but you know, thank you, Leo.
There's a lot that goes into it, right? I see things from a really high level, but you know, really think like these two for like being so nitty gritty with the little things that a GA person will know more than someone like me, right? That's the thoughtfulness that we're hoping we inch our way into success in that regard, you know?
Yeah. What are the I know we talk from TM side, not to complain or anything, but it's just like, that's just like, hey, these are all the challenges. But like, as like a company, as a business, as like a TCG company, like what are some challenges of something hosting like Worlds or even Ascent or anything like that?
It's just that like, where in the hell is event hosting on your skill set of like what I need as a TCG company, right?
Yeah.
And this has been like the challenge time and time again that like, 2 years ago, everyone was like, I'm gonna make a TCG. That's easy. What do I need? Some art, some mechanics, throw it on a like inkjet printer and spit it out and I'm a TCG. And you're like, oh, well, 2 years ago we found out manufacturing's a huge nightmare that no one has any publication on. And then it was like, well, what is distribution? What is logistics? What is game design? How do you scale art? And now it's like, oh, well, now we have to tack on event hosting to this entire puzzle. Like, thank God everyone thought that Houston Ascent went like really well. Because behind the scenes, like the weeks leading up to it, I don't think we slept. I didn't sleep during Ascent Houston. Oh my God. It was
there was definitely a lot of like
there was a lot of like
little things,
holy shit, I'm patching the holes, but everything else above ground I need to like show up and be like, hey guys, thanks for coming out. All right, go back down and like
it definitely felt like the Hollywood like set building where on the face it looks like a city, but then behind it's just like supported by duct tape and like a dude.
And so it was like the day after Ascent Houston, I was like, we can never have this happen again. Like, how do we set ourselves up to be more successful at hosting big events? And we were just like as a team, we're not capable of like splitting our own attention to cover so many more aspects of an event that we're just not skilled at. As far as like a team of 6 goes, it's like, art, game design, shipping, logistics, sales, production. You can't just tack on everything that event hosting compromises into that and expect to go well. And so that's when the discussion with TM32 happened of like, hey, like, you've run a couple regionals for us. Realistically, why don't we like just go at this together and combine forces and see what we can do together? Like, you guys have run the events, you have the connections and the understanding for finding a venue, hosting, running large-scale tournaments. We can provide you as much as support financially, design-wise, ideas, or like resourcing, manufacturing, and let's see what we can build together.
Yeah. Plus, you don't want to put like Weaves on break every event for 2 weeks.
You're like, hold on, guys. No event kits going on. No design happening.
Yeah, and events is it's similar to like show running. No matter how experienced you get at it, you're always nervous as things get approached, right? Like even for something like Worlds, like, oh yeah, we're gonna host Worlds, and then the back of my mind is like, there are people paying $480 for a ticket plus flight, and their vacation days that maybe they've been saving up their entire career to fly out to Vegas to go to the event that we're hosting. And I'm just like, oh my God.
No pressure.
And then,
Are you stressed?
yeah, and then your mileage will vary, right? Like someone might have a remarkable experience, flawless, and someone else something bad might go wrong. Like, oh, I had a terrible time, right? So that's always like in the back of my head. Oh, how do we alleviate all of these, little things that could go wrong? I'm just a little stressed.
Didn't notice.
Yeah.
We think a lot about you guys, kind of like every like idea that we have, and we're lucky that as a team we have people who just started off as like, oh, like I played this game, just like community members. So like every idea that we have, it's like, okay, if I'm a player, how does this feel? How does this look? Like, how can I make this better from the experience of the players? So there's a lot of love and care put into every aspect of what you're going to experience at Worlds. And the other thing that they haven't mentioned is like, yes, Worlds is a huge event, but at the same time, we're planning Ontario, and there's like things ahead that we're planning for. For the Weaves team, it's like even more. They're like always like juggling like a million different things at once.
You gotta start looking at venues for like the rest of 2024.
So it's a lot. It's quite a lot.
Plus we have to plan like MRC or the Mercurial Heart to come out and premiere.
If we're premiering at that Worlds. That's like the other thing.
We haven't talked about that yet.
I can't talk
the
about.
event you're gonna have to run, make sure that goes smoothly. When do you fire it?
That's actually something I even just glossed over. Is like we're not just planning one event at a time. We're planning like all of them, because they take time, right? You have to reach out to venues and then lock it in. And then, okay, cool, you did lock it in, but now how are you gonna do advertising, marketing, decorations? Who's going? Like what type of tournament is it, or is it even a tournament, right? And it's just like so many little things, and like that's why this is my full-time job now. It's like and like with Worlds too, we're also doing like Path of cosplay basically. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
like how do you judge that, right?
Yeah.
Like how do you make it so that everyone can be inclusive, but also it is a competition technically too.
Right.
It's like, what are the rules? How do you win? What's the pricing like? Is there an entry promo? Like what's the cutoff? Like if we like Path of Silver, for example, had a 100K point like cutoff, where like cool, you hit that threshold and you get something. Well, how do you judge that for a cosplay? Because everyone's cosplay is different, everyone's budget is different, you know. So it's like those are the little things that that are just hard to do.
And it's like we're reading like the servers like all the time as well. So like we see like the feedback as it's happening, and like sometimes you have the like you want to be able to say like, okay, like this is how we're gonna run the cosplay contest, but like it's not as simple as that. And I'm like, we really want to think it through to make it fair, while also juggling the other things that we're handling at the same time.
And then he's not here and he's rarely on camera, but a huge shout out to Solidar too. Like he's out there watching everything. And even though he's a goofball at events, looking at cards like this and stuff like that, behind the scenes, he is very particular about like, does this thing make people sad? People are talking about this, fix it. Right? Like he's very thoughtful about everything.
I think I saw this really funny comment. Like there's a guy on the main court called TR. He, he's like, oh, Shinja reads 90% of the Discord, but Solidar reads 100% of the Discord, right? And that's like, I'm pretty passionate. I live on that Discord, right? But Solidar, like,
is the Discord.
Is the Discord, right? And there's not, Mark thinks I'm in every Discord, Solidar's in every Discord, right? He's there because it's for better or for worse, he's there to grab the community feedback, right? To like, are you happy? Are you good? Like, are you happy about something? Are you sad about something? Like, he is very receptive, and he's also willing to change, right? Like, biggest thing was like the FTC thing, right? Like, you guys had a really good idea, boom. Oh, it didn't really work. All right, let's do this to fix it, right? So that level of flexibility is something that I think the team is doing really well with, which also allows us to do our thing too, because it's like they might have an idea and we go, oh, I think that's good, but what if like this might be better as an experience? And they go, oh yeah, that's probably good too, and then we work it out, right? So
so if you're ever at an event and you see the dev team, just tell them they're doing a good job, because they don't hear it. They probably don't hear it more than you think they do. So I preface with Roger probably the most, still second, but the reality is everyone on the team has input on everything. Like they're always factoring their own perspective. For example, Alan comes in with a really strong player perspective, right? So he's all like, oh, I think the players might not like that or whatever. And then Sil is a grinding collector, so he's like, oh, that's not good enough, right? So
Or not
everyone
saying like,
has
that
their
won't
own
work in the rules.
That won't work. Everyone has their own unique perspective. And ultimately, everyone just wants to have fun too, right? So
cool. I think we're getting to the end of our show, so I'm so sad because every time we do this, like the conversations are so fun. I don't want to end it. We can record like 7 hours. But it does have to end somewhere.
We do have to eat. I'm pretty hungry.
Anything else that we didn't get a chance to say you want to add into the end here?
It's speaking of worlds and kind of ending on that note. We are looking for some worlds level commentators, and it is an open application.
Yes.
So if you think you got what it takes, please send me an email, and I guess you can put in the description or something.
Yes, I'll put it in there.
Somewhere, the below description, but basically email me. There's also an article about it as well. Send me your clips, right? Show off what you can do. And if we pick you, then we'll fly you out, and we'll fly you to Vegas, no matter where you're from.
You get fantastic perks.
You do
It's a pretty
full package.
Super VIP. I forgot.
You get the super VIP package.
You get was it Frostbite CPR? I think. Was it Frostbite?
Yeah.
Is that a bleep?
No.
That was a spoiler.
Yeah. So a lot of things, a lot of perks. We do take care of you, right? But that's the one thing that one challenge that I think that needs to get worked on is the auxiliary labor force, basically, that I'm hoping to foster. That's something I want to do, because it'd be nice to have like dedicated caster like Discord or dedicated judge Discord or whatever. So that way, like if we're running nationals or ascents or worlds, it's like that question is not like who am I going to get. It's who am I going to pick.
Right.
That I want that as my problem, which is a good problem to have.
All right. I think we are running pretty long for our podcast, so we'll skip questions for this week. But if you have questions for TalkGA.
Oh yeah, we got one more thing.
Yes.
So just from us at Weebs of the Shore.
Wait, what?
Wait, is this why you didn't want to
Wait,
move
what?
these boxes?
Wait,
I actually
what?
was like, we should move these boxes from underneath this
When you
table.
move these boxes,
What the fuck?
Hey, it's Eva, who's currently editing this podcast. Tune into our next episode to find out what the heck just happened.
okay. We promise you. So I'm gonna make sure our next show we will have time for questions. But if you have questions for us on TalkGA, the way to get to us now is you can of course comment on our video. #TalkGA tells me that it's a question. Of course, I will read every comment, but just makes it a little easier for me to filter it. Or if you're listening on a podcast or podcatcher of your choice, go ahead and email, I think it's talkgapodcast@gmail.com. If that's right. Yeah, and then send the questions in. We'll read it and we'll share it on the show for you. Otherwise, that's going to do it for us for today. I'm Mark from Solar Games. This is the family.
Market friends.
Stay classy.
Stay classy.
Stay classy.
Stay classy. Yeah. All right, cool. That's a wrap.
But if I play Dream Fairy, then I can bounce the deer.